Hey friends. So, let's see. Welcome back to So Calm Shop. I am trying to figure out camera as always. Let's see if this works. I have no idea why it's so tricky for me, but let's try this. There was like a sun thing. Oh, I forgot my coffee, which is not coffee. If you're trying to quit coffee, I was having such bad perimenopause stuff, and my doctor said the first thing would be to quit coffee or caffeine and alcohol. And I never drink alcohol, but I drank a lot of coffee. So I gradually transitioned myself to this thing called Dandy Blend. It's dandelion root, and it is now like delicious. I crave it. I highly recommend it. So if you're interested, I mean, it was super painful to quit, but so I think helpful. All right, so look at these gorgeous things. And what am I going to title this video? It is going to be how to slow stitch. Because I feel like slow stitching is becoming, or at least I'm becoming aware of more people talking about it. And it's becoming like a craft that people need to know how to do. So I feel like I want to share that, and this is just my perspective, that slow stitching is not like embroidery. There's not a way to do it. It's not like quilting. You learn how to do it and then you do it. Slow stitching is a practice, like meditation, or like, I don't know what else, walking or something. It's an experience. So you're not trying to do it right. You're not trying to do it a certain way. You're not trying to follow a pattern or rules. What the concept is that we can experience the physical act of sewing or stitching as a creative expression that is also meditative, that gives us the opportunity to like slow down and use simple things like a needle and thread and maybe some scraps of fabric to just have a bit of like peaceful, maybe it could be fun. Like, I don't think it has to be fun though. Like if you're in a stressed out space, or if you're really grieving, or if you're really worried about something, I think it's almost like prayer. That is a good word for it. Because even meditation, people feel like I need to do it right. I feel like slow stitching is like prayer. And probably especially helpful to think of it as prayer if you're a person who's like, I am not religious and I do not pray. Because I think what prayer ultimately is us like saying, help, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know how to do this part of my life, and I'm scared, and I need some love and support. And if you're a person who believes in like a God that can be prayed to, then that, you know, you can feel like you're asking someone specific for help. But if you're a person who just doesn't believe in any of that, and like I'm not a person who believes there's some sort of like big old white bearded man in the sky, I just feel like we're having some sort of an experience here, and it can feel really hard. And sometimes I really feel like I need help and I want some support. And so maybe in those moments, I could sit and meditate and be like, you know, I'm feeling these things, and I want to feel them and think about them and process them. And then other times, or like talk to a friend or talk to a therapist, but other times I just want to be like, it all feels like so much. And I just have found that sewing in a straight line really makes it feel more manageable, and it's quiet, and it's I don't have to do it right or wrong. I don't have to follow a pattern. I can just think about whatever I'm thinking about, or zone out and not think, and just say, like, here I am, and there's nothing that I need to, like, figure out or prove or do right, or, yeah. And the studies that I've come across are that, like, actually just, like, doing something quiet and repetitive, um, specifically sewing, but also, like, knitting or walking or shelling peas or making a basket, things that people used to do as a part of daily life, um, were probably really, like, that was the, like, antidepressant of the past. I'm not saying anything about medication. I'm just saying I think this, like, repetitive, sort of almost boring, but also, like, you're thinking about making it beautiful, handcraft type thing was probably really a mental health, like, preservation activity for previous generations, and we've lost track of it because we're trying to, like, produce all of the time, and we're trying to align all of our activities with money making. So, like, there's even the word now, like, how are you going to monetize that, or, like, you could monetize that, and it's like previous generations were not monetizing because, especially in indigenous cultures, everything was, money was not a part of their system. Um, so all of that to say, like, my perspective is, if you want to be a person who, like, goes and, you know, follows people who use patterns and talk about slow stitching, like, plenty good. Do that. But also, if you're a person who just, like, is aware that you would like something to, like, be able to take a quiet, beautiful moment with, and you would like to not feel like you're doing it right or wrong, or feel like you're not good at it, like, if you'd like to just feel like it's not about that, that's what I'm inviting people to. And so when I say slow stitch with me, I'm going to be doing all sorts of different slow stitching. And sort of the, like, classic slow stitch is, like, take a little square, put, like, another square on top of it, sew a bunch of straight lines or a bunch of circles. There's, like, kind of a prototype, right? And I feel like if I'm using a needle and thread and I'm just doing it randomly, and I'm not worried as much about what is going to be the outcome, but I'm just doing it as, like, a therapy, as an act of prayer, as a, like, hey, I'm here and I want to be more present, and I want to be more peaceful, and I want to ground myself in this repetitive activity, as I go through life and as I experience things as stressful or overwhelming, or even when I'm bored. I think creativity has, so many of us, when we're bored, we, like, look at social media or watch TV. And I think there is merit to creativity in terms of mental health and personal expression. And so that's what I'm here doing. So to me, slow stitching is an experience. It's an act. It's a process. It's not a product, and you can't do it right. And to start slow stitching, literally all you need is a needle and some form of thread. And you can use paper, but it's a little bit easier, I think, to use fabric. And you can find that fabric anywhere in your life, you know? I think I definitely did another video on using a sock. We all have, like, those missing socks that you hang on to, hoping that you're going to find the other one. And so start there. you know? You don't need to buy anything. That's the other thing that I really like about slow stitching is my aunt passed away almost 2 years ago now, or I guess it has been 2 years. She was such a believer in like the spiritual mental health, like value of creativity, but I always felt like it's so expensive, you know, and I haven't had money. I've struggled with money, and I couldn't like figure out how to make it okay. I also struggled with like doing things that were just for me, and like spending money specifically on myself was really painful. And so I felt like I couldn't get into art stuff because I couldn't I couldn't make it seem reasonable to spend money on myself. And so this just felt like a miracle, you know, that like I could use an old sock and I could sew in a straight line with like a $2 needle and thread that I buy, you know, from Walmart, and that could really give me the space and opportunity um, to have the experience of creating art and to have the like calm, beautiful meditativeness of sewing without the pressure of like making something spectacular with sewing. And because I've released into that and taken off so much of the pressure, now I am actually working on things like a quilt, um, because I feel like I could do it poorly, and I'm not a bad person, and I'm not a failure, and I didn't like let down my grammar or anything. Oh, so much pressure. So once again, my philosophy is slow stitching is like prayer. It's a process. It's just a connecting with yourself, connecting with your feelings, connecting with beauty. And if you make something, if you slow stitch something that's just a piece of sock and you just did it to do it and you want to just throw it away afterwards, plenty good. Like people who have sketchbooks, right? Or journals, and they just write crazy stuff and then they don't do anything with it. That's perfect. Also, if you want to do something with it, like for example, in this moment, I'm making some coasters. I haven't had coasters for my entire adult life because I kind of thought they were like silly. And I always have had, you know, furniture that I got out of the dumpster, so I never cared about how my furniture looked. But I have this little table that I got at the Goodwill that's like a coffee table in my living room. And my Dandy Blend, I really like it, like super hot. So I made a mark on that table recently, and I don't care about the mark. But I thought, oh, maybe I want some coasters just because it'd be fun. And I had gotten these amazing sari edges from Etsy, and I was like feeling so much stress about like how to use them because they're like too beautiful. I have a big scarcity issue, and like um feel so scared to use things that I'm gonna like waste them. And I think that just comes from like generations of poverty. Um, and it's not for nothing, but I want to work with it, you know, and release it, and have more freedom around it. So I was like, what if I made coasters and cut these up and put them around the corners? And then I had little bits of this fabric that I thought would go well with it. And then I had this fabric too. So here's the other piece. So like I said, I started not wanting to buy anything, and then I talked to my friend who is a seamstress and who owns her own shop, and I told her like, if you have little leftovers, can you save them for me? And then she told me that she donates her leftovers to this place that takes donated sewing materials or crafting materials, I think all kinds of crafting materials, and that I should go check it out. So I went and checked it out, and it is indeed like almossing. It's called Swanson's Fabrics, and they have an online store. If I can figure it out, I'll put it in the notes. Um, and it's so cheap, and there's so many great things, and they sell it as like little scraps, and it's called hot trash. And I got a gigantic bag full of hot trash, just random scraps of fabric for $20. And it's gonna last me like the rest of my life. I feel like I have 3 drawers full of it, and it's beautiful little things like this. And I feel like I'm never gonna run out. And if I do run out, then I'll just go spend another $20. It's like nothing. Um, and so now I have all these like super pretty things to use. Um, so if you can find a place like that, or if you are in the US and you just want to go to their online, I don't know if they ship to other places, but yeah. So I am making coasters, and I think I don't know how thick our coaster is supposed to be. Maybe I want to have another layer there, but I don't know. I can add that on later, I guess. Um, Although I do like the this being able to see the sewing on the back. Anyways, that's the wonderful thing about all this, is that like this is not meant to be super planned or fancy or like well done. And it's just supposed to be so low stress, because it's just about like, okay, imagine your 3-year-old and you give them some Play-Doh and you're like, play with Play-Doh. And they're like, but how am I supposed to play with Play-Doh? And what am I supposed to make? And you're like, oh no, you don't have to make anything. Like, you just play with it. Just mix it around and mush it and shape it into, a snake and a snail and a ball and a square. Just keep messing with it. You're just supposed to play with it. And I feel like that's what slow stitching is. And we have been so trained to like have things be fancy or perfect or worth it or whatever. And maybe slow stitch is just a chance to release some of that and to just see what feels fun to you. How are you gonna enjoy it, And it could be something that's just gonna get turned into a rag, and you just sew in a straight line because you need to just take a mental break. And it could be that you're gonna make some coasters, or that you're gonna make a little design and sew it later onto a grocery sack, or onto the back of it, or onto the front of a t-shirt, or that you're going to sew it onto the front of a card and send it to a friend, or that you're going to make it into a little sewing needle storage place, where you put your sewing needles, or make it into a pin cushion, or patch together a bunch of them and make a funky skirt out of it, or use it as a patch on a pair of worn out jeans. Sky's the limit, because at the end of the day, it's just cloth. So anything that you could use cloth for, you can use these little scraps that you've sewn in a bunch of straight lines, right? And of course, there are people on Instagram and YouTube that have like spectacular, gorgeous masterpieces. And for me, it's like, okay, I'm not going to judge them either. Like, I'm not saying they're not slow stitching. They could be using it as meditative and enjoying it. But they also could just be fiber artists who are like doing it for real, like they want to produce some sort of like magnificent art. And that's again great for them, but my hope is that it doesn't make other people feel pressure that like slow stitching is an art form. If slow stitching is a form of active meditation and it is also art, but not in like a performance product needs to be a certain fancy thing kind of art is more what I want to communicate. Like it could just be to anyone else, they think that looks like crap, you know, but it is valuable because did you enjoy doing it? Did it give you a quiet moment? Did you feel like you enjoyed how the fabrics felt? Did you like how the colors combined? Did you, you know, for me, like, I have been like stitching while I have a stressful conversation on the phone or a Zoom meeting that's hard for me to pay attention to, you know, and it just calms me down. Like, if that's all that it's for, then it really doesn't matter what it looks like, is the thing that I would love to convey. And there's no way to do it. If you're using a needle and thread to connect fabric, you're doing it. So, okay. Whoops, I got looped there. All of that to say, friends, I hope you find little bits of joy in your day in whatever way you do, even if it's just watching people slow stitch, if it's slow stitching, if it's just feeling the grass in your toes, if it's watching TV, whatever it is, because you know what helps the whole planet. Like, you know, the thing when you walk into a room and someone's really stressed out and you're like, ooh, this energy is stressful in here. When we take care of ourselves and bring ourselves moments of like peace and feeling our feelings in a way where we're not lashing out at other people, and when we feel little moments of creative joy, we're affecting the vibe of the whole planet, the whole universe. And that's a good thing. That's a gift. So it's not selfish. It's really generous, actually. And this is something, you know, this happens to be a really cool, like, helps the planet, helps you, helps everyone else kind of thing. And you can do it for 2 minutes, and you can do it for 3 hours, and you can do it with no money, and you can spend a whole bunch of money. So I love it. And I love you. And I hope you have beautiful, beautiful day, night, week, month, whatever. Okay. See you soon, hopefully. Lots of love.